As a professional working in public education, whether you are a teacher, member of administration, administrative support staff, educational technician, or other staff member that works with student education records, the Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act, or FERPA, affects you on a daily basis. For example, if a police officer comes to the school building and you are an educational technician or a teacher, and the officer asks if a student is in school today, that is a request for an education record. Consider another example. There's a fight on the bus between two students. The fight is recorded on video and witnessed by other students. One of the students' parents comes to administration asking to see the video or read a report of what happened on the bus. That is a request for an education record. As a final example, you are in the teacher's room and you say to your coworker, the cutest thing happened the other day. Alex was taking a test and you should have seen his answer. It was completely wrong, but it was also so funny and cute. This too relates to an education record. In each of these examples, it is important to know when and how education records can be shared. FERPA protects student education records in two ways: access and privacy. Students and parents are guaranteed access to their own education records, and privacy prevents unauthorized sharing of education records. FERPA also gives parents the right to access their child's education records and to request corrections to inaccuracies found within those records. Once a student turns 18 or enters college, they gain the right to access their own information and ask for corrections. Parent requests for student records can be informal or formal, and how to handle each type of request is often determined by district policy. An informal request could be as simple as a parent requesting to know their child's grade in math class. For students under age 18, make sure you know who your student's legal guardians are before sharing information. When a parent makes a formal request for information, your school will have a procedure for responding to parental information requests and needs to provide the requested information to parents within 45 days. Some districts consider all parental requests for students' records as formal requests, so when in doubt, consult your administrators. FERPA is also designed to prevent the unauthorized sharing of student records. When sharing student information, schools must either get parental consent or adhere to the requirements of one of the FERPA exceptions. Districts have different policies on obtaining written parental consent, but in general, the written consent needs to include what data is being shared, who the data is being shared with, and why and for what purpose the data is being shared. FERPA also has a number of exceptions in which school staff can share student information without parental consent. We are going to look at these exceptions now in more depth. In this course, we have already discussed the first and most common exception under FERPA, directory information. Directory information is information that would not be considered harmful or an invasion of privacy if disclosed. For example, student name or participation in activities or sports. It is especially important to remember that what is considered directory information is determined by the school district. Make sure that you know the types of information that your school has designated as directory information. Educators may disclose directory information without parental consent if the district has given public notice of the types of information it has designated as directory information. Parents can opt out of having their child's directory information disclosed. Make sure you know which parents have opted out. Finally, make sure you know the district policy on using photos and video, in particular on personal social media and the school website. Second, FERPA has a health and safety emergency exception. During health and safety emergencies, schools can share information with appropriate officials. A good example of this would be a teacher telling paramedics that a student is having an allergic reaction when the student goes into anaphylaxis. If you aren't sure if a situation qualifies as an emergency or if the person you are talking to would count as an appropriate official, reach out to your administrator. Here are some other exceptions to needing written parental consent. Disclosure to another school system where the student seeks or intends to enroll. Reporting abuse and neglect. Everyone watching this is someone who has an obligation to report abuse and neglect. Sometimes this means sharing student education records. Compliance with a judicial order or subpoena. And information shared with school resource officers, if they have been designated as the district's law enforcement unit according to school board policy. Finally, we have the exception for school officials with legitimate educational interest. This exception can be tricky, and it is the most commonly violated exception. It'll be explained more in the next video lesson.